is a typhoon that claimed about 5,000 people. And with this disaster, that the basic act of disaster management was enacted, and the WOW concept was introduced. And also 1995, of course, the Hanshin Awaji hit it. As Dr. Murasaki already explained, it's made a lot of damages, and over 6,400 people died, and that's highlighted importance of mutual support and also self-support. And also 2011, the Great East Japan earthquake, Tohoku earthquake hit, and that's claimed close to 20,000 people due to the earthquake and tsunami, and that shows the limitation of the structural measures. So here that the national resilience as a program was introduced to Japan. And if you look at these examples and how severe those damages were, and Japan must learn from this disaster, we must learn lessons from this disaster, and we must have the worst scenario in mind, and we must prepare for that. Next, let me talk about the concept of the strong and resilient society. So the strong and resilient society that is shown in the red line. And here, after the large-scale disaster, that level of activity is relatively maintained, and it can easily recover to the ordinary level. And this is a vulnerable society. So strong and resilient society, in order to achieve this, first you must have the tolerance to shocks. That comes from disaster. We must be tolerant to shocks from disasters. And also we must be resilient. We must create capability to recuperate from disasters. So both strength and resilience are required in order to create and resilient land in Japan. That is basic concept of this national resilience program. And first, let me talk about strengths. And this is about ex-ante prevention. In 2018, Typhoon 21 occurred in the Osaka area. That's had the highest water level. In 1961, in the Daini-Muroto typhoon, recorded the highest water level. That this 2018 typhoon exceeded the highest water level. However, because of the countermeasures, like our countermeasures against that high tide or flood tide, there were no damages basically. And if there were no countermeasures, if we didn't take action, we estimate that 17 trillion yen damage was imposed on this area. But we did take an action, and we spent about 130 billion yen for construction of coastal dike and river dike and a floodgate, and also for the management we spent 20 billion Japanese yen. Because of this investment, we are able to avoid 17 trillion Japanese yen losses or damages. So as you can see in this graph, that large damage or losses forecast was actually prevented. Next shows how we try to foster resilience. We have the vulnerability assessment, and this is a flowchart that we use for that. So in this assessment, we look at the large-scale disasters, and we look at the process of the large-size disasters, and we come up with the worst scenario. For example, if there's a large-scale disaster and the energy-related, power-related facilities damage, then energy shortage shortage and fuel shortage take place, and it's difficult to supply the necessary things to the disaster hit area. Then power or drink and food cannot be delivered to the disaster hit area. So this is the worst case. So from the occurrence of disaster to the outcome of this disaster, we apply this flow chart analysis to understand the vulnerability. And in order to recover from this worst case, we try to identify areas or shortages in this flow chart. Then that process clarified areas we need to improve so that we are able to be prepared better for that type of disaster for the future.
こうした国土強靭化
So in this project, this project is supported by the laws and regulations. In 2013, Basic Act for National Resilience was enacted. Here, that vulnerability assessment was introduced, and